Oh, how's it going, everybody? We're back for another edition of All In, where I'll pick a rock artist, I'll listen to their entire discography, and give my thoughts on it. But today, the rules are going to be sort of broken, because, as I said at the end of the last video, it's going to be a one-off deal. You can see I'm drinking Shiner Raspberry again this week. Same beer, 2 different episodes. So, yeah, a little funny side story about this beer. So, I bought the 6-pack, and usually when I buy new beers, I sort of like to... Me, GMC, and Kenny have a little group chat on Facebook before we do any episodes, saying, oh, look what I got, we can put this on the next binge. I couldn't send the message because apparently I got a 72-hour Facebook restriction for something I posted 3 years ago. Fuck you, Zuckerberg. That's a whole nother rant. But anyhow, like I said, we're going to do one-offs, so we're going to feature 5 bands who each did 1 album, and that was it. So, we're starting off with 2 from the grunge era. We have Temple of the Dog from 1991 with their self-titled album, Temple of the Dog. So here we're in 1991, very early in the grunge era. You know, hair bands were still somewhat relevant. Grunge was starting to take over. So, sort of a very diverse year, I should say. But we have... you know, a few different members in this band. So we have Jeff Ament, Matt Kierman, of course, the legendary Chris Cornell, who is mainly known for Soundgarden and Audioslave. He does lead vocals in this band as well, along with harmonica and banjo and whatnot, so rest in peace, Chris. And then we have Stone Gossard, Mike McCready, and, of course, Eddie Vedder, who's from Pearl Jam. So, yeah, very grunge supergroup right here. Of course, I've never seen them in concert. You know, they were a one and done, and all the members sort of moved back into their own ways with their normal other bands, so yeah. We have Say Hello to Heaven, which we start off with on this album. Reach Down. Their very popular track, Hunger Strike. You still hear that one all over the radio. Pushing Forward Back. Call Me a Dog. Times of Trouble, Wooden Jesus, Your Savior, Four Wild World, and All Night Long. And then, moving on, we have, still in the grunge era, Temple. We have Mad Season. So, we definitely get an Alice in Chains vibe because of Lane Staley. Obviously, the vocals, definitely a very recognizable voice. And, as a matter of fact, when I first heard them, that's who I thought it was. But, here again, 1 album deal. This one came out in 95. And I've been listening to this one a lot lately. Like, it's one of those that I only ever heard, like, River of Descent, and I don't know anything. There are only a couple of songs I really heard of them over the years, and then I just kind of, like, stepped back and heard the whole album. And it's one of those that I like it a lot. It kind of grew on me. So, starting off, we have Wake Up, X-Ray Mind, River of Deceit, which is their most popular track right here. I'm Above, Artificial Red, Lifeless Dead, like that one. I Don't Know Anything, which, that one there kind of gives you more of a heavier Alice in Chains vibe. Like, all the others are sort of like more mellow. But I Don't Know Anything is the most Alice in Chains sounding song of the bunch here. Then we got Long Gone Day, November Hotel, and All Alone. And then, you know, you get in, they re-released it in 2013 with additional bonus tracks. Of course, you get an interlude, Locomotive, Black Book of Fear, Slip Away, and they did a John Lennon cover on the very last bonus track called I Don't Want to Be a Soldier Mama. And then, of course, you know, if you get the deluxe edition, you get live versions of all the studio tracks along with the cover. So, yeah, I definitely recommend that one. I would say out of between that and Temple of the Dog, this definitely rises above it. No pun intended. So, there we go. The next one is a very, very, very unheard of band. They sort of got their minute of fame on various stations across the country. I don't think anybody around the Harrisburg area really picked up on them, but I only really heard them on 98 Rock in Baltimore. They were first featured on this show called Love It or Shove It, where they feature a brand new song, and you call in and vote whether or not they still want to play it. And I remember I remember they featured this song called "Shakin' in a Bacon." Like, what? That's kind of a weird title. But they sort of have that weird, kind of like half prog, half funk, but a little bit of metal. It was a very unique sound. But yeah, the album is called "What You Gonna Do, Honky," and of course we start off with the title track of the same name. We have "High School Burnout," very cool song. "Shakin' in a Bacon," which is the one I heard on 98 Rock, and that song really didn't stick around too much. I mean, I might have heard it maybe like a handful of times, and then it sort of faded into obscurity. Along with the band, of course. Like, I never heard any more from them. You got "California," "Scared Boy," "Love Bites," and then you got "Wild Eye Girl," "Listen to the Bass," "I Want to Be on Welfare," "Hair in My Teeth Again." Gee, I wonder how that got there. "Free as a Bird," "Alcoholic Mama," "Rocks Off," and Don't Try Crying. So definitely something, like, if you want something different and obscure, definitely check that one out. So then moving on, this one was in 99. We move on, we skip to 2004, we have Josh Todd from Buck Cherry. He does his one and only real solo album. I mean, this one could be controversial as far as, one-offs. Because Josh Todd actually did do an album called Tiger of the Year in 2017 under the name Josh Todd and the Conflict. So there could be some debate there on whether or not this other one could be a one-off. But I figure just for name purposes, we'll call it that. So here we have the album You Made Me, which came out in 2004. So here we start off with Mild Infection. We got Broken, The Walls, Flower in Cages, Shine, Afraid, Blast, Burn, Circles, Straight Jacket, Slave, Wasted, and Lovely Bones. And usually you would think, like, when you hear a solo album, they're not, like, usually solo albums are a lot more, I don't know, a lot more mellow. But this isn't the case with this Josh Todd album. I think it's just as heavy as, like, his normal Buck Cherry stuff. And as far as concert experiences with Josh Todd, obviously never saw him as a solo artist, but I did see him with Buck Cherry one time. It's 2012 Hershey Rock Allegiance show. And I thought he put on a pretty good act there. So, moving on to the very last one in this video, we have a band called Rebel Meets Rebel. And this is one of those that I feel should have got more exposure, and it didn't. So, sort of a story between that. Like, in the last one-offs video, we talked about Damage Plan, which of course was spun off from a side project from some members of Pantera. The same can be said about this album here. So, Rebel Meets Rebel, self-titled album. This actually came out in 2006. So, here we have three members of Pantera with David Allan Coe as vocals. So kind of weird mix, a little bit of country in there with some metal. And even Hank Williams III is featured on one of the tracks. But you might ask, wait a minute, if this released in 2006, how's Dimebag Darrell in it? Well, it's crazy. So the history of this album is this side project went on from like 99 to like 03. So they recorded various tracks off and on throughout those years. So pretty much from the time Pantera ended to when Damage Plan started. So it's sort of in that little bit of area when this all got recorded. And then 06 was when it all got put together and released. So, yeah, here we feature David Allan Coe, rest in peace. Dimebag Darrell, also rest in peace. Rex Brown on bass. And yes, Pantera is out touring again, under the name anyway. And you got Zakk Wylde, who's on the guitar over there now. And of course, Vinnie Paul on drums, also rest in peace. And right about the time I started to really listen to this album this year, I mean, David Allan Coe ends up passing away, so yeah, this will definitely remain a one-off for sure. So, starting off, we have Nothing to Lose, which Actually, this is the first song I heard of them, and I heard it on Sirius back when they had Heart Attack. That's where I first heard it. And then, like a couple years later, I going on Groove Shark and heard the rest of the album. And then here recently, I downloaded it and listened to it in its entirety a couple times. So yeah, we have Nothing to Lose. We have Rebel Meets Rebel, the title track. Great song. Cowboys Do More Dope. Panfilio. Heartworn Highway, which that song sort of like mixes a little country western with a little metal. It's sort of a unique mix, if you will. We have One Night Stands, Arizona Rivers. We have probably what I think is arguably the best song on this album, Get Out of My Life, with Hank Williams III. And that song is about, like pissed off at relationships and whatnot. You have Cherokee Cry, Time, which is another good one, No Compromise, and we end it with New York City Streets. And, yeah, very underrated album. If you want, like, a bonus Pantera-sounding album, this is it. Definitely check it out. Very overlooked in my opinion. So, yeah, maybe as I figure out, like, more one-off albums, maybe we'll do a part 3, I don't know. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of All In featuring the one-offs. And the very next band we're going to feature next week is going to be, I would say, the most alternative band we've ever done in this series. The most sort of mix of alternative and, like, garage band vibe. But yeah, tune in next time, find out who that is.